lies, relapses, late night calls, therapist detox, emotional brawls. I've lived through chaos, tears, and gaslighting, blame, and now I've turned it into a podcast game.
So, welcome back to Not My Baggage. And today is the legal baggage nobody wanted you to know about and nobody warned you about. Let me try that again. Can we start that over?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Not My Baggage. And today's episode is the legal baggage nobody warned you about. So, a little backstory. I am introducing today Marc Stein from the Liable law firm. Marc, who was my savior, my lawyer, my personal lawyer. I found myself after 21 years of never having the guts to contact a lawyer. I had my breaking point and found myself at home, locked in my bedroom, not sure how to get my spouse out of the house, and had just come home from surgery at the hospital. And I called Marc. The nurse actually at the hospital is who gave me Marc's number and said, if you want the best lawyer, call Marc. And I did. And I was desperate and I was humiliated. And I started my conversation in tears. And I said, I'm married to a crack addict who has brought somebody into our home and has relapsed for the 87,000th time. And I'm ready to make some moves, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to get divorced. And Marc, welcome. I am so glad to have you. Tell me, I mean, what was it like to get that phone call from me?
Well, if you recall, I got that phone call while I was at the mall with my 12-year-old daughter shopping in Brandy Melville, I think. And she was in I think the dressing area, and I got this long text going, "You don't know me, but my name is, and this is my situation, and I need your immediate help." And I think that was like a Saturday night. That was like
Yep, it
that was
was.
a Saturday at like 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately called you and said, "Hey, I'm at the mall. What's going on?" So, and my daughter, who has been through Saturday night consultations a lot during my time as a lawyer, said, "I get it. Go ahead, go talk. I'll shop." So I don't know if you remember that, but I was like, "I'm at the mall. Can I call you later?" Right? But
Yep.
um, I took the call and we discussed your situation. And yes, you were in a bedroom and scared out of your mind. And let's calm down and let's talk. Right?
Yep. Yep.
So if you were talking a mile a minute, I wasn't going to get any answers from you. But you have to calm down. And that's what I tell all my clients. If you're going to discuss the situation with me, take a breath, tell me a story. Right? Tell me a
Mm-hmm.
narrative. Tell me a story.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how we met. Yeah.
You know, I think it was so interesting, that conversation, because I wasn't in a place where I was ready to get divorced, but I was definitely in a place where I needed help and I didn't know what to do. And I remember something you had said to me, and I can't remember what it was I said to you, how do I get him out of my house? And you said something about filing something.
Yeah, file an emergency order to show cause, an emergency motion to the court.
And what was that?
So if anybody, wife or husband, feels that they're in imminent danger to their person, meaning their self or property, all right, or both, okay, they could file an emergency application to their court, right, um, for what's called exclusive use and occupancy of the marital residence, all right. You can do it, well, you should do it by what's called an order to show cause, which is a type of motion which seeks immediate relief. Okay. In order to do that, though, and this is a big decision for people, in order to file the motion, you need to file an action. right? You need to file for divorce. You need to make a decision, right, to file for divorce because you can't just walk in there with emotion. There's no underlying action, right? So at the same time, if you recall, we
Uh-huh.
decided to file for divorce, start the underlying action, and file the emergency order to show cause, right? It was at that time that you made your decision.
And then how did we get to a place where, when I wasn't ready, how did we get to a place where we filed the legal separation?
From what I recall, you decided, right? So in an action for divorce, right, the summons, at least my firm's summons, all right, states action for divorce and or legal separation at plaintiff's election, right? So I make it my clients, if you're starting the action, I make it my client's preference or choice, all right, to do either.
And I
Okay.
think that's really important because I think that a lot of people don't know this, that and something that you educated me on and I really wanted to hit in this conversation was things that kind of opened my eyes were, you said to me, Samantha, while there's an emotional part to this, there's also some really important stuff that you need to think about. And I remember you saying to me, if your spouse gets into a car accident and injures somebody or God forbid kills somebody, you are financially on the hook for
Mm-hmm.
that. And the way to stop that from happening, even if you aren't ready to make the big decision, the big D decision,
Yep.
filing that legal separation, stop the bleeding. Is that right?
Correct. Cuts the tie, stop the bleeding. Okay. You cut the rope. I always use the analogy that the marriage is a rope, right? It's one long rope, right? The end of the marriage starts at the beginning of the rope and it keeps going and going and going, right? Until one of you chooses to cut the rope, right? And then stops, right? And then the rest of life goes on. But my job is to deal with what transpired during that time that the rope grew, right? From the time of the
Right.
beginning of the rope to the time that you cut it. And the only way to cut it is by filing that summons, right? By filing for divorce, okay? Or legal separation, right? At your election. If you recall, the other option I gave you, okay, was to file for an order of protection, right? A
Uh-huh.
civil order of protection. And
Uh-huh.
and everybody should know that a spouse can file for an order of protection against the other spouse. All right. And I believe your choice was no, I this is you made your decision, right? If you wanted to stay married but file for an order of protection, right, because you felt danger to yourself, right?
Uh-huh.
Then we would have gone to family court and filed an immediate order of protection and hopefully gotten what's called a stay away order of protection, right? In which case he's temporarily removed from the house. All right.
Right.
In which case you'd have to litigate that whether or not that temporary order of protection should go permanent, right? So that's usually
Right.
for spouses who have not made that decision to file for divorce yet, right?
Okay.
You decided, if you recall, when we had that, when I got home from the mall and we had that 2 hour conversation, you made the
Uh-huh.
decision, no, this is the route that I want to go, right?
Uh-huh.
Route A, route B, right? Door number one, door number two, right?
Right.
This is the route that I wanted to go. So,
I mean, look, you've been doing this a long time, right? And, obviously we're here talking about addiction and being married to an addict and what that comes with. You know, I guess I'm going to ask you, where do you think the line ends between supporting someone and becoming liable for their actions?
the line blurs. It's fact specific. It's each party's case. All right.
Uh-huh.
Meaning, everybody's got um, their own story. All right.
Right.
Everybody's got their own issues and whether or not what they should do or what not to do. All right.
Right.
Everybody wants their spouse, let's say, to get help. Okay. In which case, though, if they get help and they go back, all right, which I've dealt with before, all right,
Uh-huh.
or they get help many times and they keep going back, everybody has to make their decision. But the problem is, if you don't file or you don't make that choice, yes, if that person hurts somebody else while they're under the influence, it can affect your life. And that's what you had said about, that's what I told you, and that affected
Uh-huh.
you. If he was, high on something and he
Uh-huh.
gets into a car accident, and that car accident is on your insurance, guess what? That person who just got hurt is now coming after both of you.
Right.
Okay, and it's your house. No, it's not just your house, it's his house as well because it was purchased during the marriage. Well, now they're going after your assets, right?
And that's something I wanted to interrupt and say, you know, things that I learned with you were things that we did as a married couple, right? So if I started my own business while we were married, it's not just my business.
It's marital.
It's
Anything,
marital.
everybody should know that everything accumulated during the course of the marriage is marital. Doesn't matter whose name it's in. That's one thing that people come to me all the time on. Well, it's in my name. Okay, was it started during the marriage? Was it purchased during the marriage? Yes. Well, it's marital. I don't care whose name it's in.
And I guess, I know we live in New York State, right?
Hmm.
And New York is a no fault state.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way that it wouldn't matter if my husband, screwed 80 hookers or, was high as a kite and, no, no judge cared what he did. My sob story wouldn't matter, that everything was 50-50.
The only thing that would affect it, okay, is because one of the grounds in New York State is cruel and inhumane treatment, okay, is whether or not his behavior towards you was what's called egregious. Okay, and there is a line as to what's egregious. Okay, there is certain case law where if the husband or the wife
Uh-huh.
continuously physically beats the other spouse,
Uh-huh.
okay, let's just say is convicted of raping, all right, the other spouse, all right,
Uh-huh.
that is egregious fault, right? New York, even though it's no fault, is an equitable state, not an equal state. Okay, and
Uh-huh.
most times, yes, the court says, for equitable distribution, we're splitting this 50-50. All right, I would say 9 times out of 10, they do that.
Uh-huh.
All right, it's not an equal state, it's an equitable state. But if there's egregious behavior, all right, there is significant case law that if the court finds even the grounds are cruel and inhumane treatment, and there is egregious behavior, that the court doesn't have to do 50-50. All right, they can do
And
70-30, they can do 65-35, they can do whatever they want. All right, with respect to percentages of the distribution of assets based upon the
uh-huh.
egregious behavior. All right, is
Right.
that is that a small amount of cases? Yeah, because you have to
I was
show significant egregious behavior. But if he or she is addicted to a substance,
right.
okay, and that substance is causing them to act that way, right? Or
Okay.
they have mental illness that's causing them to act that
Okay.
way, that's something the court takes into consideration. Because a lot of times addicts aren't, I don't want to say aggressive to the spouse, they're aggressive in some other way. All right.
Right.
In your situation, yes, the continuous hookers and, you know what I'm saying, and parties and
Uh-huh.
whatever he's doing, that's not egregious behavior. So that's when you were telling me, well, I found, a condom on the floor, or I found, cameras where he's letting hookers into our house.
Right.
Okay, that's why I wasn't like, oh my God, we have to go out. No, it's okay. Like it's not
And
egregious
I guess that's really
behavior.
sad that that's,
Yeah,
it's not egregious behavior, right? I mean, it's
it's
egregious
sufficient to
to
get him
me,
out of the house.
right?
Right, it's egregious to you because it's affecting your own personal life, right? It's up to the
Right.
fact finder, it's up to the judge to decide whether or not it's egregious, right? But it's sufficient to protect you, right?
Uh-huh.
Person and property to get him out of the house. Okay, it's enough to, if you were going to seek the order of protection, for the court to issue a stay away order of protection to have him stay away from you, the house, at your job, and so forth, right?
Right.
Whether or not the court would deem it egregious,
Huh.
egregious has to be, either a major one-time incident or significant multiple incidents
Right.
for every continued egregious behavior.
I mean, I was slightly smart, not a lot smart in this 21 years, but the one thing I did make sure I always did was I never had a joint bank account. Like I separated, just money. Um, didn't have joint credit cards, didn't have joint bank accounts, which obviously I've now learned doesn't really matter because whatever's mine was his, whatever's his was mine. So I guess my question is, and it's a two-parter, what are things that people can do to protect themselves prior, if they're not in a place where they're ready to file for a divorce or separation? What are things people can do to protect themselves who are in, and I'm just talking specifically about the addiction situation. I mean, you're dealing with somebody who is erratic, who spends money without thought, could be, getting a credit card that you don't know about. What are some things that spouses can do to protect themselves? And then on the flip side, you know, what are the liabilities of somebody who does do those things, and what is the liability of the spouse? I mean, I learned through you, in my experience, that uh you know oh, guess what, Samantha, just because the credit cards are not in your name doesn't mean you're not half responsible. I think
It doesn't matter whose name it's in. Okay, if it was purchased during the marriage or acquired during the marriage or spent during the marriage, okay, it's marital. All right. So like what you said, yeah, like what I give you an example of, if you went out to Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom and bought a really expensive, or just went to the Hermes stores and bought a really expensive handbag, right? Guess what? He's on the hook for it, and vice versa. Okay, if he went out and bought a Rolex watch for $20,000 on a credit card, and a year later you file for divorce, and he's still paying off that credit card, it's marital. Okay.
or in my case, if he racked up a $10,000 porn bill, I was on the
Well,
hook for
that's
that.
well now we're getting a little bit different, okay?
Okay.
Because what the court can look at is what's called the dissipation of a marital asset. Okay, so let's just say you have $50,000 in a bank account,
Okay.
okay? And I tell my clients who are unsure, okay, what to do, whether or not they're going to file or not. I say, okay, and it's in joint names? Yes. Okay, at least go and take half of it out, right? Half of it is yours, half of it is his.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And the ones that do listen to me are happy for it later because they have security in their own personal bank account of which that person cannot touch. I'm not
Uh-huh.
saying it's not marital. I'm just saying they
Uh-huh.
can't touch it nor dissipate it, especially if you're dealing with somebody with a substance issue or an alcohol issue, right?
Uh-huh.
Or a gambling problem, which I've dealt with
Uh-huh.
recently.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That 50,000 in the bank account can easily turn into he takes 49,000 or she takes 49,000 and leaves you $1,000 hanging. Okay. I'm not saying that she or he is not going to get that remaining 24,000 back, but I
Uh-huh.
cannot immediately get it back. So
Right.
I've had situations where they're afraid to take the money and all of a sudden they get served with divorce and the money's gone.
Huh.
Okay. The person transferred all of it, not half of it as I advise my clients, but they take all of it. Okay. And now I'm running to court, asking the court for half of it back, and the court's not going to do it, not until final disposition of the matter. Okay. And
Wow.
meanwhile, my client is left without any sort of security. Okay. I'm not saying they're not going to get any sort of support during the pendency of the action, but that $50,000 security in their bank account is now in the hands of somebody who has an alcohol issue or a drug problem,
So
right?
your
Or a
chances of
gambling
getting that
addiction
so your chances of getting
is
that support are very slim to none.
slim to none. But at the end of the case, like I said, it's an equitable distribution, state. So the court will get it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But that could be a year from now. That could be 2 years from now, right? Who knows? All right. But in the meantime, that person has now spent all the money, right, on their addiction.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what I tell all clients is at least take half of it out. All right. The
Right.
case that I had was with somebody who decided to go on a week-long bender in Atlantic City,
Uh-huh.
and their savings, I would say two-thirds of it is now gone in the hands of the casino. Okay. Because that person unfortunately suffers from a gambling addiction.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and the person knew about it, all right, did nothing about it, and now their two-thirds of their savings are gone,
Uh-huh.
right? As opposed to going to the bank, taking at
Oh,
least half of it out, and
uh-huh.
okay, you secured your half already.
Right.
That person with the addiction cannot get to it.
Right.
Okay, but at the flip side of your question, if let's say that person spends um, $10,000 on a porn site, right?
Uh-huh.
That's a dissipation of a marital asset. The court will make that person reimburse you their portion.
Huh.
Okay. If that person, I'll say he or she goes and spends another $10,000 on on gambling, let's say on a fan site, that's a dissipation of a marital asset. That on my case, that two-thirds, I'm getting that client back,
Uh-huh.
all right, but because that's a dissipation of a marital asset.
Got
Okay,
it.
it's not going shopping a shopping spree at Roosevelt Field Mall. Okay, It's dealing with basically you dissipated the complete marital asset by giving it to the casino,
Got
right?
it.
Or you took $49,000 cash out of the bank account and you spent it on hookers and cocaine.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's a complete dissipation of a marital asset. You didn't spend it on groceries. You didn't spend it on a $10,000 Rolex watch. Okay,
Uh-huh.
where the person can get half the value of it back, right? You spent the money on hookers and cocaine, where on a legal activity that's now I need my money back. All right, that's a
Right.
dissipation of an asset,
Right.
right? So, like I said, in order to protect yourself, if you have cash in the bank or any other liquid assets, take half of it out, put it in your name. Okay. Um, if you have joint credit cards, right, where the
Uh-huh.
creditor can come after you for non-payment of the credit cards, get your
Uh-huh.
name off that credit card immediately. Make it his or her personal credit card. So at least the creditor, your credit
Right.
is protected, and the creditor won't come after you, it'll come after him. I'm not saying what's on the card is not marital,
Right. But
all
at
right,
least it won't
but at
affect your
least that
credit.
protects you, it won't affect your credit. It
Right.
won't affect your credit. Make like you did, everything was separate. I'm not saying what was on your credit card or his credit card wasn't marital,
Uh-huh.
right? But at least it's not affecting you.
My credit score because his
Correct.
credit was his credit and mine
Correct.
was mine. Got it.
Right.
So to my to sort of entail my answer is a question, sorry, is what are you what are you liable for? Now we've decided like we're gonna part ways or we're gonna get separated. What is my liability to his debt to
Depends on what the debt is. Like I said, if he's charging up a storm on DraftKings for his sports gambling,
right,
okay, and you knew nothing about it, all
right,
right, there's an argument to the court that that's his debt. I'm not half responsible for that,
got it,
right, based upon that person's gambling addiction.
got
Okay,
it.
that's a dissipation of an asset, let's just say, or a liability. It's a dissipation of your liability against it. All right, if that person is charging up, like I said, any sort of illegal activity or escort services, right,
Uh-huh.
that take credit cards, you're
Uh-huh.
not responsible for that. Okay,
Huh.
but if that person is going binge shopping,
Right,
okay, but it's for the children, or it's
right,
for a gift to you,
right,
or he's buying lavish clothing for himself. Okay,
right,
the court will look into that. We'll look into the longevity of it, of how long you let that go on,
right.
and potentially can make you liable for that.
Wow. Who knew? So if you're in my position or if somebody was in a similar situation, again, not ready, are there any things that someone should start gathering in case, the end goal here is I'm not gonna probably last this marriage. This thing's got to exit at some point. Are there any things that I should be gathering, whether it's documents or proof of? Is there anything I should be gathering that makes it easier for my divorce lawyer or my separation lawyer to argue my case to a judge?
Definitely documentary evidence. Document everything, even if it's in notes to yourself, because people just forget. Even if
Right,
it's just on the memo app on your phone, all right?
right,
Just write notes to yourself, continuous logging of things, all right? And separate yourself monetarily from the person. Make sure your paychecks are going into your own personal account and not a joint account. If you got to
huh,
pay marital expenses, yes, then transfer it over into the marital account. But let your paychecks go directly into your own personal account, okay, without letting marital expenses, not get paid, all right, because that person is just going to grab your money, okay.
right.
I've had a situation actually just last week where the person put 100% of their paycheck into the joint account, but then pulled 99% of it out and put his own personal account, okay, which I had to go to court over because now the expenses weren't being paid. I'd rather 99, let's say 100% of your paycheck go into your own personal account,
Right,
and then slowly but surely move it into the joint account so bills can get paid.
right,
All right. As opposed to a continuous money grab, because not only did that person grab his paycheck, but he now grabbed my client's paycheck. Okay. So that's something that you got to protect yourself on, even if have an inkling of this isn't going to work out. Okay.
And like we talked about, New York not being a no fault state, but still having this, allowance for behavior. Are there things other than monetarily, like that I should be collecting, like, you know, proof, evidence of behavior, proof of, you know,
Well, definitely,
video,
sorry,
like I had in my case, videos of people coming in my house. Like, do those things make a
definitely,
difference?
definitely 100%, because it's not just your testimony, you need to substantiate it with something. Okay.
Okay.
Evidentiary, like with your case, right? You had Ring camera, right?
Uh huh.
Of illicit behavior at your home.
Uh huh.
Okay. As opposed to just your statements. Now I get to go to the judge and go, look, just look at the evidence, right?
Uh huh.
That backs up your statements. Okay.
Uh
As
huh.
opposed to a he said, she said. Well, he did this. Well, no, she did this, right?
Uh
And there's
huh.
nothing to back it up. So if you have videos, if you have text messages, if you have emails, all right,
Uh huh.
anything to substantiate it, keep it in your file, all right, log it, all right. I'm not saying that's kind of preparation for divorce, but if you have somebody who's addicted to something,
Uh
okay,
huh.
and it's affecting your marriage and it's affecting your lifestyle, to protect yourself, that's what you need. You need to start backing yourself up. You
Okay.
do, because that helps my situation, like with
Right.
you,
Uh
okay,
huh.
that helps my situation so much easier to run to the court and go, look, just look, read and look. This is what I got, right? As opposed to a client coming to me with, well, I just have this. I don't
And I
know
mean,
why.
I was, my situation, I mean, I remember keeping a journal of behavior in my marriage. So I always knew in the back of my mind. I mean, honestly, if I'm going to be really honest, like I thought I was going to write some like best-selling book about how I like survived 21 years of insanity, drug abuse and chaos. But I kept a journal every year of, you know, big things that happened. Whether it was, whatever it was. I mean, I just kept a journal of, you know relapses and rehabs I paid for, and sober livings I paid for. And I mean, I kept sort of a financial journal and an emotional journal of my journey, and never thinking that it would be something that, you're right. I mean, looking back, when you and I were talking, looking back, I stuff I'd forgotten about, things that had happened, purchases I'd made. I guess that's my other question to you is, does a court look at, um, uh, actually, let me ask you another question that's actually really important. Um, he actually threatened me with, I'm going to sue you for spousal support. And my situation was maybe a little unique. I had a business. He had, had businesses, had jobs, and then for periods of time, because of his addiction, was unemployed. Right. And so I was carrying the financial burden of the household. And I guess that's a question that I would love answered is, what obligation, does a court look at and say, well, she was paying the bills for 2 years, and keeping him afloat for 2 years, you know, addiction or no addiction, she was keeping him afloat for 2 years. What were his rights to file? Did he have rights to file for spousal support?
Yes and no. Like I said, it's very fact specific. If you want me
Uh-huh.
to relate it to your case, yes, because you knew about it and you still supported his lifestyle. When I say supported his lifestyle, I don't mean you purchased the hookers and crack. Okay.
Uh-huh.
What I mean is that you supported the roof over his head, the food in the fridge, okay, the clothes on his back.
Uh-huh.
All right. So the court can make you continue it. They can deviate from what's called the maintenance calculator, which is really when they just put in your incomes and the state law calculator comes out with a number. All right, the court
Uh-huh.
can deviate it based upon facts and circumstances relating to the case. All right, they can deviate from the number that the state calculator spits out, but at the same time, they could also look at whether or not he needs it, right? Whether or not how let's say this, how much of his lifestyle you supported. All right, if you didn't know about it,
Uh-huh.
okay, if it was such a closet addiction that you didn't know about it,
Uh-huh.
okay, the court can put you temporarily on the hook for supporting them, okay, because
Wow.
you didn't know about it, all
Uh-huh.
right, but they can definitely do it if you did know about it and you continued to support them, All right. So that's why it's a fine line of, you know, will make you continue spousal support to this person, but only for a little bit of time until that person's able to get back on their feet because of their addiction, right?
Wow.
So let's just take I'm just going to reverse it now. Let's just take a working hedge fund guy making
Uh-huh.
$300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, right?
Uh-huh.
With his wife as a stay-at-home mom who now has decided to become, unfortunately for them, because it is an issue, but an alcoholic,
Uh-huh.
right? And I've dealt with that where the mom's at home, the kids are at school, and the mom decides to continuously, day and day, drink herself into,
Uh-huh.
into intoxication. And then the kids come home and she's intoxicated, and now the husband has to come home and deal with the issue, right? And
Uh-huh.
you've done that for 2 years now, and you've known
Right.
about the issue, and you haven't done anything, right? And then all of a sudden it reaches a boiling point where the person decides to do something,
Uh-huh.
that person's going to be paying maintenance. All right. But the court's going to look at the wife and go, well, now you need to get help
Right.
because I now made this person continue to support their life.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And but to do that, to maintain your maintenance, you're going to need to get help. And if you don't get
Right.
help, then I'm not going to make him financially responsible for you. Okay.
Wow.
The purpose why New York changed, in my opinion, and there's articles about it, but they changed the term alimony to maintenance, okay, is because the purpose behind it is to maintain one's standard of living that they had
Huh.
during the marriage until they're able to maintain it themselves.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I hate to interrupt, but
Yeah.
like if he said it to me once, he said it to me 5 times. Like, I'm gonna make you support me in the lifestyle I've become accustomed to.
The lifestyle, but that's different. The lifestyle that he's accustomed to had to deal with hookers and crack. That's not a lifestyle that the court isn't going to make you continue to maintain
To
that
maintain
lifestyle.
that lifestyle.
Okay. I'm talking about a housewife that their roof was over their head, their clothes on their back,
Right.
their food was on the table because this hedge fund guy was supporting the wife while she was taking care of the children.
Right.
Fine. That's their lifestyle, right?
Right.
But if that person is now taking that lifestyle and diving into alcoholism, the court is not going to make that person maintain that person's lifestyle without that person getting help.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, I got a couple of really quickers for you
That
before we wrap. I just like yay, nay, or you're screwed or not. If my spouse is using, can I legally kick them out of the house?
only if I should say this, it's not an easy question.
Uh-huh.
Yes, by immediately going to get an order of protection if
Okay.
that person has become a danger to you, okay, and the children if you have
Right.
children, because it doesn't
Right.
need to be just the spouse, it could be the children as well, right? You can be fine, he hasn't attacked you or she hasn't attacked you, but all of a sudden she's not or he's not taking care of the children or cannot or is now a danger to the children because of the alcoholism, all right? So it's not
Got
just
it.
the spouse, it's the children as well. So yes, you can immediately the next day go to family court and get an order of protection. Or if it's immediate, then just call 911.
Got it.
If you come home and that spouse is intoxicated and is ranting and raving and causing a ruckus in the house, just call the police. They'll
Right.
remove that person from the house immediately.
And I think people forget that or are scared to do that. But I
Yeah,
think, I mean, I've had to do it.
right.
And to not be afraid to make that phone call.
Don't be
Um,
afraid to make that phone call. Just they'll come. They'll be there in less than 5 minutes and remove
right.
that person from the house.
Um, yes or no, and I'm sure you can answer this one. If my spouse steals from me or drains our accounts, is that a civil matter or a criminal matter?
So
Okay. If they drive the car while high and it's in my name, I'm on the hook. Is
yes,
that correct?
yes.
Okay.
Through the insurance company. I hope you have insurance. But yes, that person can come after both of you.
I did want to mention this just while we were talking about this because I thought about it earlier. In my case, my spouse crashed 3 cars in 2 years and was kicked off our insurance, actually, was kicked off his insurance policy, which I was on. And as his spouse, I thought I could stay on because I had not crashed 3 cars in 3 years. And they kicked me off too. And we both had to find new insurance, and I had to sign a waiver with the insurance company that said if my spouse drove my car, I had to sign a waiver saying that he would never drive my car, and that if he did drive my car and got into an accident, that they would not pay on a claim because he could not be in that vehicle.
Hmm.
And I don't think people know that, and I didn't know that until it happened to me. My last question is, if someone is scared to leave, like I was, what would you suggest as a next step? If someone is scared to make that move, I think for me, and maybe I'll answer for myself and then you can answer. I needed to talk to you. I needed to talk to a lawyer and find out what my rights were. Because honestly, I didn't know what they were. I just saw this big divorce word and it was really scary and big and it seemed really final. And I wasn't ready to be final yet. And to be honest, I mean, here we are. We're a long time in, Mark, you and I
Hmm.
still, you still have those divorce papers in your safe, and I haven't
Hmm.
called you yet to say file, and I am still legally separated. And I think I want people to know as we wrap this up that making that phone call to an attorney may seem really scary, but whatever state you live in, the laws are different. At least find out what your rights are. At least find out what is legal, what's not legal, what's yours, what's not yours. Protect yourself even if you're not ready to make that final step. And the only way and I'm a smart woman with a business, I didn't know any of the things that you told me. It was an education. I came to you as a crumbled, broken, scared spouse that was locked in her bedroom and didn't know what to do. And you opened my eyes and educated me and got me from that place. And if I hadn't made that phone call that day, and it took all the courage I had, I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you today and and having my own podcast.
Well, you can
I
thank you
can't
could yeah. No, I'm saying
go
you could
ahead.
thank yeah, no, I'm saying you could actually thank my 12-year-old, well now 13, but my then 12-year-old daughter for allowing me to take that call, right? Because there's been times where she's like, really, Dad? For in a mall on a Saturday night. Okay.
Mm-hmm,
Um, but yeah, you have every single right to call any attorney at any time, and really you should talk to the attorneys that offer free consultations. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Instead of saying, hey, pull out your credit card, I need $350 for the consultation, right? Meanwhile, while
yeah.
you're sitting in your bed, scared out of your mind, I need
And you may not
$350
have
to
$350.
just right, just to get answers. Okay.
Mm-hmm,
Contact a lawyer that will pick up your phone on a Saturday night while standing in the mall, okay, with their daughter. All right.
mm-hmm,
And get educated. All right. And yes, taking that step, unfortunately, is a major, it's an emotional one.
mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not a legal decision, it's an emotional decision. All
Right.
right. The lawyers, such as myself, can guide you through the court system and give you your options as to what you want to do. All right.
Mm-hmm,
And that's what I said to you multiple times during that 2 hour conversation. Well, what do you want to do? These are your options, right? Choice A, choice B, right?
mm-hmm,
You don't want to file? Fine, we'll go to family court, and get an order of
mm-hmm,
protection. You do want to file? Fine, I'll go through Supreme Court and file an emergency order to show cause for exclusive use and occupancy of the house and get them out.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, but I can't make that decision for clients. All I can do is just educate them as to their decisions, as to what what their options are. Okay. It's for them to decide.
And I think just to wrap this up, that honestly, I somebody was watching out for me that night. That I got you as my lawyer. Um, you talked me off a ledge. You made me feel safe. You made me feel heard. You weren't offended or scared or repulsed by the things that I said to you. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of stuff, but I thought I was unique. We always think that our story is unique. You didn't make me feel ashamed or embarrassed. You educated me, and I am incredibly grateful to you for that. If everyone could find a lawyer like Mark Stein, we'd all be better people and we'd all be happier people. I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to me today.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of
Thank you
course.
so much for educating everybody. And my only advice to everybody is, the one thing I said about this podcast was we're not here to tell you what to do. We're not here to tell you to get divorced. We're just here to tell you what your options are. And knowledge is power, right? And I was not knowledgeable, therefore I was powerless.
Mhm.
And what I got from my conversation with Marc was knowledge, and that gave me the power to make my decisions. Marc, thank you so much.
No
I
problem.
can't thank you enough.
Happy to help. I'm happy to educate. And yeah, like the choice is yours, but get knowledge, get on the matter, really. And lawyers are supposed to help people. So I'm glad I was able to help you.
You did more than that, and I got a friend out of it. Thank you,
Definitely.
Marc. I
No
really
problem.
appreciate it. Bye.
Lies, relapses, late night calls, therapist detox, emotional brawls. I've lived through chaos, tears, and gaslighting blame, and now I've turned it into a podcast game.